Hi guys, New Legend here. Today we'll be looking at how to assemble the Elite Praetorian Guard Heavy Blade. Alright, so first off, I want to talk about how to make these electro beams that will be holding the blade together. To start off with, I think we should talk about material. Now what I used is a TPU filament, this red colored TPU filament. I like it for its rigidity. It's more rigid than something like this paracord, for example. I guess you could use paracord if you wanted to, if that's all you had, weave it together. This one is a little thick. I think you can find something a little thinner that might work. But I like the TPU just because it's more rigid. Especially when you close the blade, you want something that will push back on itself and not collapse. So yeah, that's why I think TPU is a better material for this specific model for what we want to use it. But I understand that TPU is expensive. If you don't have it, I'm not sure if you want to buy a whole roll just for this. So if you only have paracord, I'm sure you can use that and try and make that work. But my suggestion is to use a 95A TPU for this part of the build. Okay, so to start off, you'll need to cut yourself 3 equal lengths of a TPU. Once you've done that, I can go ahead and show you how to create this weave or braid with the 3 strands. So you'll need to go ahead and clamp off the end. Oh, where's my clamp? Oh, here we go. So go ahead and clamp off the ends, and you can put that to the side. Now to start the braid or the weave, what you're going to want to do is put your hand underneath like this, and then thread your fingers through and give everything a good twist to the left. This will be your starting position. We then start with the left hand. That needs to go underneath to the middle, followed by the right hand over to the middle. And you're going to continue this process, left hand under to the middle, right hand over to the middle. And just continue this process all the way until you're done. So then if you pull it tight like I'm doing here, you can see the braid or the weave starting to form at the top. Alright, so after you've weaved your beam, you're going to want to cap off these ends, stop them from coming apart. What I like to use is something like this heat shrink. You can just cut this to size, put it over, use a lighter to heat it up. It will shrink right down and keep those strands together. At least that's how I like to do it. I guess you can also just melt the ends, melt the 3 strands together. But yeah, I like to use the heat shrink. The next step is handle assembly. We're going to start with these end caps. And you can see I've already assembled this one. When you print these, you print them flat, but they have these cutouts at the bottom for these small extender parts to slot into. Got some model glue here, but of course you can use super glue or whatever you have. These extender parts have these tabs at the bottom, and they should fit in or slide in just like this. Then just repeat this 3 more times to finish up. So once you're done with the end caps, we're going to move on to the handle. 2 parts, the inner part and the outer part, they just slide together. I also recommend you glue these together. You'll just have to coat the inside of the outer handle with some glue in between these openings and just slide them together. Let that sit, let that dry. Moving on, we have the pommel stub, as I like to call it. And on the handle, there are 2 cutouts, a smaller one and a larger one. The larger one is where you'll attach the blade. So for the pommel stub, just apply some glue and insert it like this. To finish off, these end caps need to go on either side of the handle. After you've assembled both, you can just slide them on like this. So what I like to do is line it up with these cutouts. You can see there's a long one and a short one. I like to line up this indentation here with the cutout, the short cutout. Again, just remember to glue it together, and you'll do the same for the other side, and you should have a completed handle. So once you've assembled the hilt, you're going to want to start with the blade. You can see I've already started assembling this blade just to help you with a visualization of what this should look like. So for the parts, the first part we're going to look at is what I like to call the beam emitter. This part holds the beam and emits it to the next part of the blade, as you can see here, allowing the beam to flow from one part of the blade to the next. Next we have the beam receiver. This is the part that receives a beam on the next part of the blade. So here you can see how the beam flows from one part of the blade to the next part of the blade. Alright, so moving on. Next we have the part that holds this all together. You can see that it is designed to clip and fit around this emitter part as well as the receiver part. And this is what forms the core of the blade. Of course, when you assemble it, make sure to include the receiver part. I've also designed this outer jacket. The jacket is designed to just slide over everything, keeping it in place. But of course, you'll do this only at the end once the assembly is complete. Next, it's important to mention that there are two types of outer core. If you hold these side by side, you can see that the cutouts do not match. One is used for the ends, so where the blade attaches to the hilt and where the tip attaches to the blade. As you can see, it's designed to hold this joint and then connect to the tip. So you'll only need two sets of these, one for connecting the blade to the hilt and one for connecting the blade to the tip. But for the middle section of the blade, you will be using these. Okay, so for the assembly, first thing you'll need to do is take your electro beam and you'll need to mount down one side, mushroom it out like this. Best way to do this is to use a soldering iron like this one and just mount it down. Make sure you flatten it out a little bit. So here on the assembled part, you can see how I mounted these down, and they are quite secure. They won't come out. So let me continue the assembly on this part down here. It's got the receiver going to the emitter in this part, and so on. Before we can close this section of the blade, we'll need to thread through the beams. So let's do that. Now you can close up this section of the blade. You can see we have the short end. This will attach to the emitter, and then the longer end will attach to the receiver. Once you've glued all that in place, you can take the jacket, the outer jacket, and that will just slide over. After you've assembled all the parts of the blade, you can now test to see if the blades lock together. Thanks for watching. Please drop a comment if you have any questions about this build. Until next time, happy printing!